Elijah stood in a vast open field, the air thick with the smell of freshly turned earth and sweat. Before him, lines of men were being drilled, the rhythmic pounding of boots echoing ominously. To one side, a demonstration was taking place on the use of the latest machine gun, its rapid staccato bursts turning wooden targets into splinters in moments. Not far off, a massive tank rumbled into view, its tracks churning the mud beneath. Amid this symphony of war, Elijah's mind wandered. He thought of James Freeman, evading trackers and navigating through dense woods, using the North Star as a guide. His great-grandfather had faced hounds, hunger, and the relentless pursuit of those who saw him as property. In contrast, Elijah was learning to navigate a labyrinth of trenches, dodge bullets, and face the looming specter of chemical warfare. His training officer, Lieutenant Hale, strode over, breaking his reverie. Impressive, isn't it, Freeman? The might of modern warfare. Elijah nodded, his eyes transfixed on the monstrous tank. It's powerful, sir. But it also feels... Hale grinned. Progress always feels that way. These machines, they're the future. Just as the cotton gin was in your great-grandfather's time. Elijah frowned, recalling the stories. The cotton gin, a symbol of technological progress, had intensified the demand for slave labor, making James Freeman's journey to freedom even more treacherous. That cotton gin chained my kin, sir, Elijah replied, voice edged with bitterness. Hale looked taken aback. I didn't mean. It's all right, Lieutenant, Elijah interrupted. It's just, every age has its shackles. I wonder if these machines, these marvels of technology, will be ours. As night fell, Elijah sat alone, staring at the stars, those same celestial bodies that once guided James to freedom. He imagined the scars on James' back, the product of lashes and brutality. Then he looked down at his own hands, tainted by the grease and grime of war machines, symbols of a new kind of brutality. The violence of his era was no longer intimate, no longer face. Taste. It was industrial, impersonal, delivered from a distance. A distant scream broke the stillness, a comrade experiencing a nightmare, perhaps a premonition of the violence to come. Elijah clutched his rifle closer, pondering the nature of progress. The chains of the past were evident, tangible. But the chains of progress, they were more insidious, hidden beneath layers of steel and smoke. Was this his inheritance? The continuous cycle of struggling against new manifestations of old demons? Whatever the answer, one thing was clear. The battle for freedom and dignity was far from over. The first blast of artillery was something Elijah would never forget. It shook the ground, rattling the bones in his chest and reducing the surroundings to a nightmarish blur of smoke, mud, and metal. His ears rang, and for a moment, he felt as if the very earth was attempting to swallow him whole. "Goddamn hellfire!" shouted Private Mills, a lanky man from Louisiana, as he scrambled to load his rifle. "This ain't nothing like they told us back home." As the smoke cleared, the real horror unveiled itself. The battlefield, once a tranquil meadow, was now littered with body parts and the twisted remains of barbed wire. Men screamed, their bodies flayed open by shrapnel, calling out for mothers, wives, or anyone to ease their pain. A hand clutched Elijah's ankle. It was Private Robinson, eyes wide with terror, a dark pool of blood expanding around him. "Eli. My guts. Help me." Elijah, paralyzed by the gore, looked down to see Robinson's intestines spilling out. He tried to speak, to comfort, but no words came out. Suddenly, amidst the tangible horrors, something more insidious caught Elijah's attention. Shadows darker than the smoky haze flitted on the periphery of his vision. Whispers, too soft to distinguish, yet laden with malice, prickled at the edges of his consciousness. "Elijah!" yelled Sergeant Thompson, snapping him out of his trance. "Move! Damn it! This ain't the time for daydreaming." But as they advanced, pushing forward against the enemy lines, those shadows seemed to move with them, always at the edge, always watching. Was it the smoke, the trauma, or something far more sinister? That evening, as night fell and an uneasy silence settled, the soldiers tried to catch some respite. Elijah, however, found himself plagued with nightmares. In the twisted landscape of his dreams, the battlefield merged with the cotton fields of the past. The same shadows that stalked him during the day were there, circling the figure of James Freeman as he ran, their whispers growing louder, more distinct, bound by blood, forever chained. Awakening in a cold sweat, Elijah felt a weight like never before. The war was not just a battle against a foreign enemy, but against shadows, memories, and legacies that threatened to engulf him. The stories of James Freeman's courage and resilience were not just tales of the past, but a call to arms in the present. Elijah gripped his locket, a family heirloom passed down through generations, and whispered a silent prayer. The emerging shadows of this new battlefield were formidable, but so was the spirit of a freeman. A cacophonous rumble disturbed the morning mist. The soldiers, including Elijah, jolted from their morning routines to witness the strange monstrosity rolling across the training ground. "What in God's name is that?" whispered Private Mills, his voice barely audible over the mechanical growls. "That, Mills, is our ticket to victory," declared Sergeant Thompson with a smirk, pointing at the hulking metal beast before them. "Meet the tank." Elijah's eyes widened in awe. He had heard rumors, whispers of new war machines, but seeing it in person was another matter. The tank seemed invulnerable, an ironclad beast that defied the bullets and bombs that had claimed so many lives. As the tank demonstrated its might, another sound joined the fray, a rhythmic rattle that echoed with deadly precision. Rows of soldiers operated newfangled machine guns, their rapid fire tearing through makeshift enemy lines, leaving naught but destruction in their wake. Private Jenkins, a young recruit, remarked with glee, "With these by our side, we'll be home by Christmas." But it wasn't just the sounds of war that signaled this new dawn. A peculiar sight caught Elijah's attention. Men donning strange masks, their faces obscured, eyes shielded behind glass. It was a drill for chemical attacks, another sinister invention of this modern conflict. Sergeant Thompson handed out these gas masks, his voice grave. "Gents, these are your lifelines. If you see a yellow-green cloud or smell something sweet and pungent, mask up immediately. This ain't no ordinary smoke. It's mustard gas. And believe me, you don't want to know what it does to bare skin and lungs." Private Robinson, the ever-curious soul, asked how bad could it be. Thompson looked him straight in the eye, his voice a dark whisper. "It blisters your skin, burns your eyes, and drowns you from the inside. I've seen men choke, foam at their mouths, their eyes turn blood. Red. It's a slow, agonizing death." A chill ran down Elijah's spine. For all the promise of these new technologies, there was a darkness, a malevolence that came with it. These weren't just tools. They were harbingers of unprecedented carnage. That evening, as Elijah polished his boots, he couldn't shake off an unsettling thought. Was this the price of progress? To make killing more efficient, more impersonal? As he gazed at the distant tanks and heard the distant chatter of machine guns, he pondered how this war, with its mix of old valor and new horrors, would reshape the world, and at what cost.